Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA front office show. Happy, what day is it now? Wednesday? I guess it's Wednesday at this point. The days are just blurring together at this point, Keith. And fortunately, we still have plenty of NBA basketball to talk about. But happy Wednesday. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to turn on those notifications as well. And check out the Substack, basketballbulletin.substack.com. Some more coming there pretty soon. Some info on that front. But Keith, how are you doing? Well, I know how you're doing fantastic. Everyone else in the NBA is doing horribly right now.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Minnesota and Dallas are still both doing pretty good for at least several more hours until one of them is lost. But yeah, I'm feeling good, man. They when you get a win that you shouldn't have gotten, it always feels pretty good. So it's you still won. It's so funny how many people are like, don't you feel bad about that as a win though? No, it's a playoff game. All playoff wins count the same. They all count for one, and I don't really care how you get them. I don't care if it's by 50 or if it's by 1 point or if it's by 10 points. Doesn't matter. I'll take every single one of them, and off we go. So, yeah, happy with that part of it. Here's the other thing, too. I only knew it was Wednesday because it's the last week of school here, and our daughter has 2 exam days the next 2 days. So I knew this was the last full day of school for the year was today. So that's the only reason why I knew that. But yeah, other than that, I'm exactly with you. I look over and I'm like, oh, it must be a weekend because my wife's not working today. So that's how I generally know. At least
That's how you
Saturday
know.
or Sunday.
They all just blur together at this point. We've got a lot to get into today. We need to talk a little bit about the new TV deal. Goodbye, TNT. We'll talk about that. LeBron, his contract decision. We'll get into that a little bit. We need to talk about Ty Lue and the Clippers. What is going on there? We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. We got surgery for Jalen Brunson. All kinds of things on the show doc today. I mean, let's just talk about it. The Celtics, they win in overtime. It was gross. It was disgusting. I will admit I did not watch the game because I knew what the result was going to be. I got a little bit of hope when I started to see the updates on my phone, like late in the game, that the Pacers were up, and I was like, could they actually? I still thought, okay, well, it'll be a 4-1 series then. It's mostly it will hit our projection of a 5-game series, and then they clutched defeat from the jaws of victory. Keith, I don't know. I watched the final few minutes. I don't know how many teams I've seen just absolutely fumble on the 1-yard line the way the Pacers did. But credit to Rick Carlisle after the game for saying that was on me. That's my fault. I screwed up. I should not have let my team lose this game. And I'm coming from a coach who never did that and got a lot of flack for never saying, hey, I blew it. It's frustrating that he blew it the way that they did, but good to see Rick Carlisle stepping up and saying, yeah, that was on me. That was my bad.
Yeah, I think it's such a fine line with coaches because we praise them when it's like they trust the guys on the floor and they really had faith in them and those things. And then you have something like this happen and it's like, why didn't you call a timeout, you idiot? Right. Like, and he took the credit for, or credit
The blame.
for the loss. I guess, yeah, took the blame. That's the better way to put that. Sorry, my brain is a little fried today. It's been a day. But I think with Rick Carlisle, yeah, that's stand up, right? And he's not putting it on any one of his guys. And it wasn't, I'm not going to put it all on him because they should know better. Some of the turnovers that they had, especially even in overtime, some of the things they did. I think Miles Turner said it really well too. Their youth showed up a little bit. Like once they let the Celtics back in it, then the Celtics kind of took a little bit of control. It took them a couple minutes in the overtime, but then they were able to really kind of take control there. I think for Boston, this was big because Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum were not very good throughout large chunks of this game, and they were both great down the stretch. Brown obviously hit the huge three-pointer. Tatum made some big plays in the overtime. He outscored the Pacers all by himself in the overtime period to get the Celtics the win. So I think we saw a lot of things that are going to carry over the rest of the series as far as being high scoring. I think we're going to see a lot more games that are like 125, 120. Whereas I think in the West Finals, we may see a lot more 105, 100 type of games. I think we're going to just see it be really kind of up and down, back and forth with this. I think the Pacers can hang. That's how good of an offense they are. I think the difference we saw, which is where I had so much faith in the Celtics, was when Boston needed to lock down and get some stops, they were able to do it, and the Pacers can't. The Pacers just don't have defenders like that. So I think it's going to be a fun series. I think it's going to be a competitive series, but I still believe it will be a relatively short series in the end.
Yeah, again, the Pacers. This sounds like a knock on the Pacers. The Pacers are there because somebody has to be, right? Like they're not.
Sure.
I don't think they're quite conference finals level of a team. They might get. I think they're on the right path. I think they can get there, but there's an element to this where they're not really that quality of team.
It feels a year early, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's maybe where the better way to say it. They're probably a year early to be there, and the inexperience does show through. This is going to be a fantastic growing experience for them. I think they're going to be better off because of this, and this is going to allow them to really figure out, okay, what do we need to do in order to get to that level? But I just don't think they're at that level at this point. So I was surprised to see them actually in it late in this one. One thing that stood out to me, and this was again, I've seen clips of the game. I did not subject myself to watching that whole game, but the Celtics winning the free throw battle 30-10. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying there was any kind of referee, error here or any kind of conspiracy or anything like that. Not at all. I am not saying this is why the Celtics won the game and there was no, I've heard that narrative way too often this year coming from the Lakers side of things. That is not what I'm saying. From a basketball standpoint, though, the Pacers are the team that looks to drive into the paint. The Celtics are the team that spams three-point shooting. I was surprised to see the discrepancy in the Celtics' favor. My guess going in would have been that it would have gone the other way. Did you see a shift in the Celtics that allowed for the Celtics to get to the free throw line more often? What do you attribute that to? Because that was the one thing that stood out to me where I went, whoa, okay, I would have thought the Pacers would be the team shooting more free throws and the Celtics would be the team knocking in more threes. And the Celtics were indeed the team knocking in more threes. They shot 10 more, but they also got 20 more free throws. How did that all play out?
Yeah, I think on the offensive end, Boston earned those free throws. They got downhill a lot more. They attacked a lot of mismatches, which forced help, forced fouls, those kind of things. The Pacers got into the bonus early in a couple of the quarters with really bad fouls, like over the back fouls, stuff that happened in the backcourt, things like that. Those are usually the ones that end up killer, right? It's not so much I went for the block and I fouled the guy at the rim. It's more of I fouled him 85 feet from the hoop. Like that's where those are just the killer fouls. Then this is gonna sound weird to say this. I think the Pacers' lack of free throws that's a kind of a sign of how bad the Celtics defense was at points in this game. They just gave free runs to the rim. And it wasn't, these weren't even contested shots. There was a very missed call where Tyrese Halliburton on a fast break should have been at the free throw line. Peyton Pritchard reached in. And it was one of those where this whole new world after the West playoffs with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, where it didn't dislodge the ball, so it became a foul kind of thing. Yeah. Pritchard fouled him first before there was any contact with the ball on Halliburton. But in the game's very first basket, Jaylen Brown went in for a dunk, and Aaron Nesmith kind of wiped them out. And Rick Carlisle, who has not been shy at all about commenting on the officiating, he made a joke about how his daughter already can't go to a year of college or whatever it was. But he also very much said, yeah, it wasn't that. And the Pacers players, to a man after, were like, yeah, it wasn't that. I think as odd as it sounds, it was just Boston's defense was that bad at points that they just gave up free runners to the basket. I mean, TJ McConnell was repeatedly breaking guys down and getting layups. It's normally he's taking that fall away jump shot or that pull up jumper, and he was getting all the way to the rim, Toppin had a couple dunks, Turner had a couple easy dunks. So that's something where I think Joe Mazzulla would trade off. I'll follow a little bit more if we actually play a little bit more defense, and that'll probably balance out a little bit more as the series goes along.
No, that's interesting, because a lot of people will look to that and go, oh, see, it's rigged. They're hashtag rigged, right? Or whatever. I think it's more interesting to look at, well, why was that the case? Why did that imbalance occur? Like, and it's funny that you mentioned the defense being so poor. That was really the answer to the question, or a big part of the equation for the Lakers too. People go, why don't the Lakers get called for more fouls? Have you seen their defense? They give up. They scheme open threes to their opponents. So yeah, if you're not playing defense, you tend to not get called for a lot of fouls. That's the way that it tends to go.
I remember this was in the Scott Skiles tenure of Magic head coaching, so not a fun time here in Orlando. But there was a game we were at it after one of the earlier games I think I attended with a credential, and I actually said to him, I said, your team was you on a positive note, they got drilled. And I said, you didn't give up many free throws. And he goes, anytime a team doesn't give up any free throws, it means you weren't playing any defense. You weren't close enough to guys to follow him. He was pissed. Like he was beyond angry about it. And it's stuff if you watch a lot of the coach pressers, you'll hear that a lot was, we weren't close enough to anybody to follow them. That's why they didn't shoot any free throws. So yeah, I think it played out closer than I thought. And obviously the end game was bananas. But I think this is what the series is going to be. I think the Pacers can hang because their offense is so good. But I think the Celtics just, when they need to, they can buckle down and get a stop. And they did that about 4 or 5 times late in the fourth quarter and in overtime when they really needed a stop. They ended up getting it, included Al Horford, who was having troubles all night with the guards. He had a big block on Andrew Nemhard late in the game. That was kind of one of those plays where it's like, all right, it's almost like when a pitcher has been thrown a ball slightly off the plate, and then he finally busts a guy inside. It's like you were setting him up for it. It was like, all right, I'm going to let you get in a little closer. All right, I finally get the stop here. I don't know exactly. That was his strategy, but he did get him on that one, and that was a big play. Tatum had locked up Halliburton. Halliburton should have, on the last play of regulation, he caught it, and he was open. It was about a 30-foot shot, but should have taken it. Like, that's a shot he can make, and he probably should have just pulled the trigger and let it fly, but he didn't, and then instead he dribbled himself into trouble. Tatum was right on top of him and did that, so some good plays by Boston defensively late, where that was ultimately, I think, the difference in the game.
Sometimes you can be so determined to make sure that you get the last shot. And I know it's frustrating when you see a team shoot with 10 seconds left or something like that, and then you give your opponent a chance to come back. We see it at the end of quarters and the halves and the games as well. But sometimes you also have to take the look that's there, especially if it's 5 seconds or less or something like that. Now, I don't recall if the Celtics had a timeout in that moment or not.
That's the other thing. Yeah,
that's
so
where
you can't shoot early there. Yeah, you're not going to shoot with 10 seconds left because that's more than enough time. This was like 5, and it probably would have been by the time, even if the shot missed, by the time it missed, it's dropping off the rim with like 3-4 seconds maybe left to go. And you're talking 3-4 seconds. They're going to have to throw it the length, and maybe you give yourself a chance at an offensive rebound. So that's the only time I'm okay with shoot early is when the other team has no timeout left, because then you have no chance of them setting anything up that's good.
Exactly. All right. Let's jump over to this. The NBA finalizing a deal with NBC, ESPN, and Amazon. Notice no TNT there. So is this it? TNT is done starting next season, or is there still life here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to turn this into Trevor and Keith's legal minute here, but TNT believes they have match rights to match a deal with this. But the NBA kind of has said, you do, but that doesn't mean you get to match just the money. You have to match what NBC is going to do for us, because it's not ESPN's part. That part is already, that sounds like the most locked in, followed by Amazon. This is, so what they've done, maybe it'll help to break this down a little bit. They've created like different plans. So you have the plan A package or option A or whatever they're calling. Let me get the real term. The A package. So that is what ESPN has. So that is multiple games per week, which probably really turns into multiple windows per week. So probably 2 or 3 windows per week. I'm assuming maybe still the Saturday nights. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they still have the Sunday afternoons. We'll see. But they also keep the NBA finals, and they get a conference final every year. And that's part of it. WNBA games will also be streamed streamed or aired on ESPN, as well as shared international rights. So that's the A package. ESPN is paying the most for that. It's almost $3 billion a year. Then you have the B package, which is that has historically been the TNT package, which is 1 or 2 nights a week in the regular season. That's usually Tuesday and Thursday in the past. Then it is playoffs, and you get a conference final, and they have like the All-Star game and things like that, which interestingly enough was not mentioned in any of the reporting where the All-Star game goes. And I think that maybe is a sign of no one actually cares all that much anymore about it, but that's a whole aside. So NBC bought the B package, but what NBC is going to do is they're going to put games on network television, which TNT can't do. They don't have network television, or Warner Brothers doesn't have network television. Now, maybe they could partner up with somebody to do that, but as it stands today, they don't have that ability. So them trying to exercise any kind of matching is really hard, because what the NBA has said is for us to go backwards to you, where it's not games on network TV and then games on cable or streaming, which will either be like USA is what NBC owns. That's where they show Premier League games now during the daytime. And they have Peacock. What you'll see in this situation is TNT has to then pay even more to keep it status quo. In TNT and Turner and Warner Brothers executive David Zaslav have said, no, like we don't think we have to do that. So that's probably going to be a legal fight. That's probably going to get a little ugly. Then you have Amazon gets, no one's calling it the C package, but really what they're getting is, it sounds like the in-season tournament will be there, which I'm hopeful for. If they just take in-season tournament nights, maybe then the whole having to flip around becomes easier. Maybe they can create a way just within Amazon's app to do that. They're also going to get the play-in tournament. They will have that, sounds like exclusively. And then they are going to get WNBA and international rights. What's not in there in this report, and maybe this will change, is Amazon getting playoff conference finals games. They're going to get first-round playoff games, but not necessarily conference finals games. And that was something that was, I think, concerning to some people. So all total, $7 billion per year is what the NBA is pulling in on this. So it wasn't a triple what they had, but they doubled what they had previously, and they're sitting in a pretty good place. And we're also going to get NBC back in the mix. Roundball Rock will already come in. John Tesh already said they're bringing a whole orchestra down to a recording studio to re-record it, and they're going all out for that. Now, to what you said before, what happens inside the NBA? That's the questions everybody's asking is, does NBC, does Amazon, does one of those groups just buy it, right, and take it? But Ernie Johnson has already said he doesn't want to leave Turner. He's going to stay with Turner. He also does baseball for them. Turner has a partnership, obviously, with CBS for the NCAA tournament. He's worked for them as well. But Barkley, Kenny Smith, Shaq, who knows what becomes of that? I had a lot of people saying, well, maybe they'll just keep it. I don't see why they would keep the show without games leading into it. That doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, a lot more to come on this. But $7 billion annually coming into the NBA. And reminder, not right now, 25-26 is when all this will start.
Well, you had a good post on X kind of breaking down what this can mean. And I think there's a little bit of the sticker shock, but a 35% max salary in the 2028-2029 season will now be $72 million. Max deal, 5-year, $419 million. 5th year of the salary would put you at $95 million. Keith, we're almost at a point of having a player making over $100 million per year. But again, this isn't, in terms of percentage of revenue, this isn't changing anything.
Nope.
This is still where we've always been. But people will look at, I'm sure the reaction will be, oh my gosh, players are making too much money and this is too much. It's the same percentage. It's the league is just making more money. And again, this $7 billion media right deal also means 10% cap growth. But remember, again, I like that you've got on here, that's the max the cap can go up. We're not going to see that crazy, oh my gosh, now the Warriors can sign Kevin Durant situation where the cap suddenly spikes way, way up. And next thing you know, you've got teams that shouldn't have cap space that do.
It's funny, you and your purple and yellow brethren go to the Warriors signing Kevin Durant. The rest of us go to the Lakers signing Timofey Mozgov and Luol Deng. Like that's because that was they were both equally bad in their own ways. Like the Durant one was like, man, we just made the best team in the league even stronger. And then the other one was like, these were two of the several bad contracts. Nate Duncan, I think, was the one who coined them the sour 16s, because then for like the next 4 years, it was like, what is this stupid contract? Why is this here? I think one of the earliest things you and I spent a lot of time discussing were various options for the Lakers with waiving and stretching Luol Deng in his final year of his contract. And what does it look like? What if they just let it expire? We ran through a lot of scenarios back when I started joining you on Lakers Nation regularly. But yeah, this was $7 billion a year. It would likely cause, I was running some very loose math because it's hard to get all the way there. It would have probably caused about a $25 million cap spike in 2025. It would have gone up about $25 million, or I'm sorry, 25%, not 25 million, a 25% jump had we just let it all load in. And the reason they don't want that is that benefits only 2025 free agents, because they get to eat up all of that. And then it went away. So what they've done is they've smoothed it out. So it'll go, let's say I'm right on that. Let's say it should go up 25%. They cap it at 10%. The remaining 15% spills over into the next year. That gets capped at 10%. Then that remaining 5% spills into the next year. And there's some normal growth that will happen as well. So it's not quite that simple of math, but it'll take several years. But we're looking at every projection that I use, SpotTrack uses, Real GM uses, teams are using is modest growth this year, probably somewhere in the range of just under 5%, then 10% every year through the remaining horizon of this CBA, because that's what we expect to see happening here, is because it'll take some time to catch up, plus just standard growth from there. So, but yeah, by the time we get to 28, 29, cap should be right around 200 million, maybe a little bit higher, 72 million first year, 419 million total, 95 million. That led the question being, people were like, who's going to make $1 billion just in salary?
Right.
And I think there's a chance it could be someone of the, I'm going to use Tatum and Brown because they're very popular examples of this, because Jaylen Brown got the huge supermax last year. Tatum's going to get one this year. They could, but that means we're getting into a fourth max contract for them. That just starts to get a little dicey when you're in your mid 30s ish, in that range. But definitely Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Sure. Luka may beat him there. Obviously, Luka may get there before he does, but definitely by the time Wembanyama is due for this, because like we said, we're only 28, 29 is simultaneously forever away, and also not that far away from being a guy who makes almost $500 million just on his own from that one contract. So yeah, wild stuff coming.
If you have the ability to be an NBA player, I highly recommend it.
Practice your jump shot, kids.
That's right. That's right. All right.
I did see it was very funny. If you're looking for some time, if you have some time to kill later today and you want to scroll through some of the replies to that tweet you just pulled up are pretty funny. The replies and the quote tweets, because there's a lot of me with my 4-year-old out in the yard right now, like, and it's like
right.
Practice their dribbling and shooting and stuff. So there's a lot of funny stuff out there.
All right. LeBron
Can I tell you about one other quick thing before we get into this, just because it's contract related? All NBA teams come out tonight. The last couple of shows we've covered all rookie and then all defense. All NBA is being delayed to come out tonight before the West Finals Game 1. There are a handful of players who are in a position where it's going to really matter for them on this. So the rookie scale guys are Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, 25% max extension versus a 30% max if they make All NBA. Tyrese Maxey did not sign an extension, but same boat, 25% max versus 30% as a new contract. Jaylen Brown has about a $2.2 million bonus if he makes All NBA. He's already earned some of that, so it's up to. And then Domantas Sabonis has a $1.3 million bonus if he makes All NBA. There are other guys with All NBA triggers in their contracts, but it's just not realistic that
they're not going to make it.
So it's not worth getting into.
So a number of NBA players will be waiting patiently to see if they're getting a nice bump in their pay based on, and this is part of why there's a lot of media members who don't like these things being tied in there, because you don't want to have that kind of an input or an impact on someone's finances, right? So
yeah,
it's a tough spot.
Yeah, I mean it's a $40 million difference for those guys between 25 and 30%. Just that we think of it in terms of the starting salary, but over the life of that contract, that's $40 million. There's a reason Jason Tatum was so upset a few years ago when Julius Randle made it over him, because it cost him a lot of money. And there's a reason why Zach Lowe talked openly about it, where he's like, I don't want to impact contracts like this. I don't want to be a part of it. And he didn't do his vote this year. So it's just that's tough, man. That's I honestly, I am more than happy to break it all down on the back end. I don't want to be responsible for that kind of stuff either. Like that's not it. I don't. The problem is I don't know of a really better system other than just saying let teams decide on their own. I guess that's fine, but it's like I don't know. This doesn't feel great.
Yeah, that's a good point. Then what else do you do for it? But no matter what, there's going to be consequences no matter what.
Yeah,
sure.
Like, could you have a panel of people? But it's like even then, the panel of people, like, I don't know. Like, here's the thing: we had voters vote for Domantas Sabonis for first team All Defense.
Yeah.
How? I think he is wildly underrated, and he is one of my favorite players in the league. There's not a world where he's like 83rd team all defense. Like it's not, he's not anything near first team all defense. Like that's just ridiculous. Like that's where it all falls apart, right? Because you could say, oh, let's have a panel of 10 people, but you get one goofball in there, and it's like that guy's impacting things, for players long term. Like that's just ridiculous to give him a vote. And there was a guy I know you remember it because it was all over Twitter at the time. He said, I voted Andre Drummond first team all defense and defensive player of the year, because what he said he does is he adds up defensive rebounds, blocks, and steals, and that's how he ranks the players. Like that's not what do we
in this day and age? That's especially crazy when we've got all these advanced metrics.
And sure, right? All you had was the newspaper, and you did it that way. Like fine, whatever. And you never saw them play, right? Because it's just all I could do is read about the guys on the opposite coast. Fine, I guess. But come on, man. Like this was like 3 years ago. This was not like 5-6 years ago. This was pretty recent. So I don't know. That's all just broken.
All right, let's talk about LeBron. This won't take us long here. This is not a surprise. LeBron has not made a decision on whether or not he wants to opt into his contract or not. Has a player option this year, $51-ish million. I think we talked about it on yesterday's show. He's probably not going to let anybody know till June 29th, which is the deadline for him to say what he's doing. He wants to see what the Lakers do first. He wants to, and I think he probably winds up staying with the Lakers, whether he opts out of the contract or not, or does not pick up the option or not. He could re-sign a deal as a free agent, and that's something he can certainly do. But I don't think he ultimately leaves the Lakers, but I don't expect him to let anybody know what he's doing anytime soon. He's not going to relinquish. It's power. Right? It's power nothing changes for him on his side of things. Nothing changes if he tells them today or if he tells them June 29th, what it is that he's planning on doing. The only thing that changes is the Lakers side of things, where then they have certainty. LeBron wants them to not have certainty, so they'll have a little bit more incentive to go and do the things they need to do to try to build a winning team right now. And that might include moving future draft picks, things like that on draft night. Going into free agency, I have a feeling they'll probably already have a sense of who they can and can't get in free agency, even on June 29th. Even though we know that never happens, nobody talks ahead of time, but I'm sure they'll probably already have a sense of what's realistic and what's not. So yeah,
Look, as long
this
as
is
we're
not a
not
surprise.
leaking complicated 3-team sign and trades, then we're probably okay.
Yes.
If we have those several days in advance, a week out from free agency starting, yeah, that's when you're going to get yourself in trouble. I still to this day, people have asked me about that, and I'm like, I don't feel at all the slightest bit bad for any of the people involved in that. The only one I felt a little bit bad for was Bogdan Bogdanovic, and he ended up fine anyway in the end. But I was like, I don't feel bad for any of y'all because this was about the dumbest thing any of you could have done. A week out, 3-team that involved a sign and trade, and you were giving up like, here's the details of it. Like, that's you made that bed, dug that grave, you lie in it, and that's on you. I had
Yeah.
no issue with that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They're gonna have a fairly decent. It's like D'Angelo Russell, right? We're talking a little bit about him
Sure.
before the show. We've both been having a lot of conversations. D'Angelo Russell probably today, a month plus from free agency opening, has a fairly good understanding of who's interested, right? That's how it works. But the difference is D'Angelo Russell isn't out there being like signing a 5-year max deal with the Lakers or signing 4 years with Orlando or anything like
Right.
that. Like, he's not doing that. Neither of the teams. So that's a little bit of the difference. I will say this too. I don't think LeBron is fat. I've seen a lot of people say, well, of course he's not going to tell him early because he wants him to draft Bronny. I kind of think that ship has sailed. I think it has sailed as long as if it's the 55th pick and Bronny's still on the board. I think then there might be a little pressure of like, come on, you might get a
I think
chance.
that's Bronny's floor.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Now, what's funny is, did you see ESPN's latest mock draft yet?
Oh, where he goes 54th?
To the Celtics.
Yes.
that
I saw that.
would be like supreme trolling and would
Right?
just absolutely kill me. I would die. That's like when Danny Ainge traded for Austin Rivers and then wouldn't let him just go to the Clippers. And they're like, no, you have to trade for him. If you want to go play for your dad, you have to trade for him and make it happen. I'm not just giving him to you for nothing. Like, it was like I saw that and I legit busted out laughing. So like, if this is how it played out, that would just be the funniest possible outcome. Like, I don't think that's going to be how it goes. I also don't think any team is jumping in early on Bronny. With that, I kind of hope they don't too, because I don't want to see it turn into Bronny needs like 2-3 years of like G League time and real seasoning, and people are screaming and yelling like, "What a waste of a pick! This kid sucks," and all that, because that's just going to make the start of his career not great. But I'm with you. If he's on the board at 55, I think at that point he probably. And you know what? It's fine.
Who cares?
There's only
The
3 more
pick.
picks. Yeah, there's only 3 more picks this year. Whoever else you were going to get, you'd probably just sign as an undrafted free agent anyway. Like, it's fine.
Exactly.
You're not missing anything at that point.
Well, and I think that's part of why we're seeing LeBron, or hearing, through the various channels, Rich Paul and all that, we're seeing LeBron distance himself from that whole idea. They're putting out there, drafting a team, or they're saying a team getting Bronny does not mean that LeBron's going to come play for you. They're putting that out there. Bronny has kind of walked back that, I want to play with my dad. LeBron's walking back that way, because they don't want a team to just see an opportunity to make a profit, essentially, and try to say, okay, well, hey, we have the 35th pick, whatever. I'm just picking a random number. We have the 35th pick, and calling up the Lakers and saying, hey, we're going to draft Bronny right now. Now you need to come trade for him. Bronny wants, they want a team to draft him, not to use him as leverage, but a team to draft him because they actually care about him and want to develop him and are investing in his future, not because they see an opportunity to turn a quick profit in terms of a trade math or anything like that. So it makes sense why they're walking back all of this stuff. And I think, to his credit, Bronny played well enough at the combine, and there's still people who say, well, he's not that great. Yeah, but I think he played well enough to where if he wants to get drafted on draft night, he's going to get drafted. He'll have some teams that are interested. Just the question is where.
Yeah, I think this whole situation is weird, even if you take out the whole idea of playing together, just because. And I'm going to say in our lifetimes, this might not be the last time we see this, because guys enter the NBA at 19 now. Guys are playing later than ever. If they have a kid at 20, Like, I mean, Jason Tatum's son is gigantic for his age, and we see him all the time. There could be a world where they both in the NBA at the same time because he had him when he was like 18 or 19 years old, and if he plays until he's 40 like LeBron did, yeah, maybe they could both be in the NBA at the same time. Now, what I will say is, I think that's LeBron almost just being a good dad about it. Of like, hey, I want what's best for my kid, independent of me. I think Rich Paul has actually done a really good job with this. Of we got to separate this. This is not a thing. Like I am representing LeBron James and I'm representing Bronny James. They're two different people, and I'm representing them independently of each other. That said, I'm with you. I think his floor is 55 to the Lakers, and there's what will be stupid is someone will go undrafted and make a roster and be really good, and people will scream and yell about it because they'll be like, "You shouldn't have drafted him." That's fine. That's no different than anybody who gets drafted in the 50s. You miss sometimes. Sometimes guys make it later than other guys. It's like Gigi Jackson was a two-way guy and made the all-rookie team. But yeah, and I think Bronny, his likely path in initially is going to be on a two-way contract. Maybe he gets one of the new second round pick exception deals where they kind of lock him in that way, but it's going to be a lot of G League time for him coming, and that's fine. I mean, that's where he's at, and that's
what the G League is for.
Best for him. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's jump over to the Clippers. Ty Lue and the Clippers have made no progress. It seems weird to me, Keith, that the Clippers and Ty Lue haven't made progress on an extension. If you're Steve Ballmer, money should not prevent you from signing. It's not like there's a competitive advantage to getting your coach on a bargain deal. There's a major competitive advantage to getting players on a bargain deal, but there is no salary cap for coaches. This doesn't change anything. So I'm a little bit surprised that they're not making progress right now on a deal. I do wonder how much of it is, well, the Lakers are still out there. Ty Lue can use that as leverage and that type of thing. So once the Lakers pick a coach, maybe that suddenly gets them to get a deal done. But it is curious that they're still sitting. Now, the Clippers hold all the power because Ty Lue still has another year under contract. If he didn't have another year under contract, that changes a lot.
Sure.
Most coaches do not want to be a lame duck coach where they have just 1 year left on their contract. So that would not, it would be a bad situation for any coach. And typically teams will handle this. But knowing that the Lakers are out there lurking, where if they did say, okay, Ty, we don't want you to be a lame duck coach either, but we're going to move on and go to somebody else, knowing that the Lakers would scoop up Ty Lue immediately, that I think alone, in addition to, I think they legitimately like him as a coach, but that gives the Clippers a reason to kind of slow play this, not jump to any conclusions here, and then make the decision as they go. But still a little surprised they haven't just given him the extension that he wants.
Yeah, it's kind of akin to Paul George on the player side, where every day that this goes by, it increases the chances that something doesn't get done. The difference is Paul George can be a free agent this summer. Ty Lue can't be unless the Clippers grant that to him. And it was funny because I had someone suggest, well, he's probably holding out. He probably wants one of these 6-7 year contracts that have been given out. But my thing is, yeah, I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe is, well, I'll just go to the Lakers because I know I shouldn't say with this certainty, but I feel like if Ty Lue was like, do you want me? The Lakers, if he was available to get him right now, he'd be like, done, sign on, let's go. So I think maybe he is using that as a little bit of leverage to get there. And I saw some people say, well, and they probably don't want to give him that long of a contract because if they want to fire him, almost any owner but Steve Ballmer. I think he's like, hey, if I want to fire the guy and we're going to pay him $13 million to sit on his couch, fine. I think they also know maybe a year he's out of the league, and that probably by his choice. It's more likely he immediately gets another head coaching job somewhere else if the Clippers fire him. So, yeah, I weird stuff a little bit with the Clippers. A little bit weirder of a point to this offseason than I thought we'd be at. I thought we'd be Paul George is done, Ty Lue is done, and we're really talking about how much is James Harden getting in free agency. And Harden's like the least kind of worry, it seems like, of all this situation.
I saw something going around earlier today that like the Sixers think that, and I don't recall where it was from, so take it with a grain of salt, but that the Sixers feel like they have a legit shot at actually landing Paul George. And that the longer this goes, and again, we think about whenever stuff like that comes out, who benefits and everything.
Mhm.
But the longer that goes, the like you said, the more real it becomes that something could happen there, whether it's Ty Lue, whether it's Paul George, or anybody else. So indeed, a little bit of a weird offseason so far for the Clippers, but a long way to go. And I'm still not at a point where I'm going up. See, they're not going to bring back Paul George. He's on the market. I still think it ultimately gets done. I think that the timeline will create urgency as we get closer to free agency. Something will probably, we still have, what is it, 6 weeks till free agency starts, something like that.
Yeah,
So
roughly in that range.
roughly. So
Yeah,
I think
about
as we
5.
get closer, that'll create more incentive for them to get something done.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's go here. We mentioned this. The Magic are interested in D'Angelo Russell potentially, and the Spurs looking at Stephon Castle potentially with the 4th pick. Keith? What are your thoughts? D'Lo in Orlando. Do you like the fit there?
Um, yes, to an extent. He does not seem like the kind of guy the Magic have gone for, uh, in their kind of build of the team, just because they prefer guards that they play more defense and are a little bit more, let's just say, slightly more athletic, like he can do more things than D'Lo, but there's definitely he would have been in their playoff rotation this year for sure, if not their starting point guard. I think they have the defense to cover for his deficiencies. And I think there's a world where because of what he's done in his career of playing with other guys, and playing off those guys,
Mm-hmm.
he's not going to come in and eat up all the touches and take them away from Paulo and Franz. And that's what you can't have happen in Orlando. I think he could come in and be a good 3rd or 4th guy for the Magic. So it makes some sense. I'm not sure that's where they go for certain. I do kind of wonder, is this D'Lo's camp trying to
Right.
drum up a little bit of a, hey, one of the teams with cap space is super interested in me, and looked around and said, oh, Orlando needs a point guard. Let's kind of go that way.
Right.
But yeah, it wouldn't shock me if that's where it went. It would be a little bit out of character for Orlando.
Yeah, I agree. I think it makes sense on a macro. You step back and you go, well, they need shooting. They need somebody who can initiate an offense. Okay, that's D'Angelo Russell. But all the other things that they tend to look for, he doesn't really check those boxes. But nonetheless, like you said, this time of year, it's who benefits, and D'Lo putting out there, if that's what's happening here, that hey, the Magic could be interested. That's that would be a positive thing for him. What do you think about the Spurs, Stephon Castle?
Yeah, I am okay with it. Not at 4. If they wanted to pick him at 8, I'm all right with
Sure.
that. I'm really kind of. It's been fun doing all the basketball bulletin stuff with Bryce in the
Mm-hmm.
draft, because it's really allowed me to, one, I just have him as a thought partner. Where the great thing with Bryce is he will very quickly tell me, you're a little higher on that guy than I am, and other guys, and then it forces me to think about it differently. With that. But it's been great having him there, because that's allowed me to refine my own board a little bit more going into this. It's so weird. One of the worst draft classes, but I am so prepared for this draft compared to other years. I invested a lot more time, and it probably was a good year to do it because
Mm-hmm.
I needed to know more about each one of these guys. So I like Stephon Castle. I think he's going to be a very good NBA player. I just don't really like him at 4. If it was with the 8th pick, okay, I don't have a real problem with that. I'm not fully buying this idea of he's going to be a point guard in the NBA. I don't know that I agree with all that.
Do you think he makes it to 8? Because a lot of the mocks that I'm seeing, he does not make it to 8, and that's why I immediately went to okay, maybe they're talking for 4 because he's and again, who knows how things actually look on draft night, but he's not there at 8. And well,
Yeah,
okay, I found a few where he is, but there's a lot where he's not.
yeah, he's going to be right in that range. He's probably going off the board anywhere from 5 to like 10.
Yeah.
So chances are he may not be there. But again, this could be just this game gets played a lot of ahead of the
Mm-hmm.
draft with, this player's, ceiling is this pick, their floor is this pick, and those kind of
Sure.
things. And then it doesn't always come to fruition.
All right, let's finish up with this. Jalen Brunson, Bojan Bogdanovic, sorry, undergo surgery. They should, Brunson broke his hand. What was Bogdanovic again? He was the ankle, was it?
Well, he's recovering from foot surgery already. Now this surgery was left wrist surgery.
Oh my
When
gosh.
he had that ligament damage earlier in the playoffs that he tried to play through. So yeah, so he's got I think it's right foot and left wrist. So I'm sure I'm sure his summer is off to a wonderful start there. But as always, successful surgery for both of them, right?
Yes.
We remain the streak remains intact of press releases about successful surgeries with this. What caught my eye with this? Brunson has been pretty prominently mentioned as potentially one of the number one injury replacement guys for Team USA.
Yes.
This summer, 6 to 8 weeks. That probably takes him out of the mix. 8 weeks would put him right on the borderline of maybe going, but he'd miss all of camp. He'd miss all of the exhibitions. So I don't think that's going to be a thing. Then Bogdanovic, more crucially, Croatia has to play in the qualifying tournaments this year to get into the Olympics. And that's in the beginning of July. So I have real doubts he'll be ready to go for that between the two different surgeries he underwent. That's a big loss for them. He's a huge part of their national team.
Yeah. We're getting to that point of the year, right? Where injuries now could impact the Olympics. And that's what we're seeing happen right here. If it's not Jalen Brunson, who's the next up injury replacement for Team USA?
Yeah, especially the guard
position
line
matters, but still.
I wonder, if Donovan Mitchell was healthy enough, would they go to him?
Mm-hmm.
Would you ask Trae Young? Maybe could be somebody you could go to in that situation. That's if you needed like another ball handler shooter. Those would probably be a couple of the guys I would look at. I think there. And then if it's bigs, it'd be other guys that they would look at for sure. But yeah, probably those. They're just off the top of my head are probably two of the top guys.
The Knicks, I'm picturing the game operation. I'm picturing him in a Knicks jersey at this point. Like they have so many guys that have so many different things going on. That's what's happened with this team. Hopefully they can stay healthy next year. Julius Randle, we'll see. Does he stay with the Knicks or not?
Maybe he's all kinds of trade rumors already.
Yeah.
People are. I think some of that is just speculation of there's a $30 million contract that could be moved. But yeah, there's definitely sounds like they're going star hunting. Who that star they're hunting for is, I don't really know because I'm not sure we're fully there yet. But yeah, it's gonna be a interesting summer in New York for sure. Good team, right? Good team, and even if you do make the star trade, they're gonna have plenty of pieces in place after that on the back end to contend. One last thing with Jalen Brunson. There was a report that came out about his extension that it's expected he'll sign a $160 million extension. I don't think so. I don't think he'd be giving up like $40 million by signing that now. I kind of find that hard to believe. I think he will hold out and see where he is at. And that's part of that is that's all the Knicks can offer him, the extension rules. Again, they cleaned them up, but they didn't go far enough. They're still kind of broken. They're still not limited. If it's a guy who's on a nice contract right now, that sounds awesome today, right up until you have to extend the guy. Then it's like, oh man, this kind of stinks. Doesn't make enough. So a little bit of a rough spot for him.
And that does not mean that this isn't a Donovan Mitchell situation where if he doesn't sign an extension right now, that immediately puts him on the trade market. No, he still has a couple of years under contract. So that's not where we're at. If Donovan Mitchell doesn't sign it, says no to the Cavs this summer,
a different story.
Trade market, we have liftoff. All right, everybody. That's going to wrap things up for today. We do appreciate you joining the show. Make sure that you do subscribe over on the YouTube channel. Follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, and check out basketballbulletin.substack.com. Till next time, see ya and stay safe.